And now I have the distinct honor of moderating a little discussion sort of about what they call new space, sort of what's next. We've got a couple of guys with incredible backgrounds, a lot of experience, very broad experience, and I want to views about where we are, where we're going, sort of what's next in the new space arena, in this new economy that we're dealing with, and in particular what they think is most important. So I'd like to bring on, first off, Major General Clint Crosier of AWS. How are you, General?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me today, David. This is a wonderful forum and a lot of distinguished speakers, so thanks for including us.
Well, glad you're here, and thanks for your service. And I also want to bring on J.R. Riordan of BlackSky. He's got one of the better backdrops of all time. I really like that one.
We're on orbit. Good afternoon, David.
You got the name BlackSky and the whole thing in there.
Got it all squared away. It's all about marketing and merchandising, sir.
Well said. Well said. So I think you win that prize. We have to give a best background award. I think we give other awards, so we'll give that one.
All right.
So it's great to have the two of you, and I'd love our audience to understand a little bit about you guys. You both have really broad backgrounds, very diverse backgrounds. JR, if you talk a little bit about your background and how you've gotten to where you are here today, sort of what your responsibilities are, and then we'll do the same thing with the Major General.
Super. Yes, sir. Sure can, David. Thank you again. And General Crosier, great to see you, sir. A good friend from many years in the Air Force. I served with General Crosier in the Air Force about 26 years doing space, cyber, ICBMs, nuclear mission, as well as intel surveillance and reconnaissance. Retired in 2011 and entered into the commercial market, working for Honeywell and multiple other companies, Cytor, SAIC, different organizations supporting Department of Defense and commercial operations. I was very fortunate to be able to work and run a small company in Fairfax, Virginia, operating the integrated broadcast service for the Air Force at the time. And then went back to the Hill, the Senate Armed Services Committee, after a request from General David Thompson to go back and serve, not in uniform, but in a suit this time, to help craft and support the language and efforts to establish the U.S. Space Force. General Crosier and I worked side by side, literally every day, to get that done over well over a year. And we were very fortunate that the Congress, the Senate, the House decided, and with presidential authority, that a U.S. Space Force was to be established in a new service. The sixth service for our Department of Defense was established. I finished that time at the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator Inhofe, Senator Reid were quite kind in allowing me to do that. And then I decided it was time to go back into the industry and support from the other side of the fence. Went to Parsons for a little while and then was recruited here as the Chief Revenue Officer of BlackSky, a great company. I really enjoy what I'm doing here with our satellite constellation and our ongoing real-time geospatial intelligence mission. But I'll now defer to General Crosier, sir. You're well distinguished as well. And again, so great to be on the panel with you today, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you. General.
Yeah, thank you again, and JR, good to see you, my friend. So Clint Crosier, and I too had 33 years active duty in the U.S. Air Force, my career field primarily, although I did ISR, I did nuclear capability, I did a lot of joint operations throughout the course of your career as we encourage people and strive for people to do. But my primary responsibilities were launching rockets and flying satellites. So I've launched rockets from Vandenberg, putting up national security payloads across Titan and Atlas rockets. I've commanded satellite constellations from MIL-SATCOM to GPS to missile warning in a number of command positions. And I've worked space policy, space budget, a whole spectrum of space-related things. And I had a wonderful opportunity, as JR said, to be the lead architect and the planner on the DoD side for the creation of the U.S. Space Force. But coming out of the creation, which was an absolute highlight, I had a really interesting opportunity where Amazon Web Services reached out to me and said, essentially, we've seen the growth of the space industry, and we recognize the unique value of cloud to support the growth and innovation in the space industry. And so we want to create a new organization within AWS to focus on bringing cloud-based technologies to the space and aerospace industry. And so what we've learned, the thesis proved true, but what we've learned over time is when we bring space and cloud together, it unlocks extraordinary innovative potential across the space industry. And so that's our focus in our current role.
Again, thank you both for your service, and your broad experience really is going to be helpful for this conversation because we like this to be broad ranging. But first I have to say one thing, Clint, we're honoring Jeff Bezos tomorrow with our 5-star award, and that is for Amazon's extraordinary support of our military. And I might segue a little bit off, but we think it's really important that people hire, train, develop, and engage, our military veterans and the value that they bring. And I know both of your organizations do that in the highest order. And of course, that's why we're honoring Amazon tomorrow. But I imagine at BlackSky, you, sir, the military, ex-military, are the backbone of both of your businesses. Is that a fair statement?
We'll consider that today. How's that sound? That's for sure. We are very much hiring veterans as well, and veteran support to BlackSky. We've got about 275 people today, and that is a priority for us, not only in our Seattle office, our Albuquerque office, and our Herndon office here. The military prepares folks to do multiple things and support the nation, and BlackSky is supporting not only our customers, but the nation, the warfighter as well, both here and overseas in international governments. So, and I know General Crosier does that as well, and Mr. Bezos is just an outstanding supporter. When I was in the Space Club and Foundation, he was kind enough to be awarded the Goddard Memorial Trophy, came out to the event, spent an evening with us, and was also kind enough to support us in scholarships for STEM education for younger folks. And it was just really nice to meet him. So, General Crosier, sir.
Well, I applaud all of the industries across America who really embrace our military veterans. It is such, I think our military veterans offer a lot in terms of proven leadership, proven experience, but I really appreciate, corporate America leaning in and recognizing that value and making a focused effort like BlackSky, like Amazon does, to bring veterans into the fold. So I just want to say thank you to all those companies that routinely participate in that sort of activity.
Well, thanks for letting me veer us off for a second. So I'll try to get myself back on track with you guys. So I know our audience is really interested in hearing where you think we're the current state of this new space, and this term that people are using calling new space, right? And where we're at, and then where you see things going, et cetera, where people should focus the most, and maybe where your specific organizations are focused, where you're prioritizing what you have first. And I'll open this to both of you. So Clint, if you would maybe take that one first.
Yeah, well, new space is a term that's sort of loosely utilized, but the way I think of new space, frankly, is companies that are embracing new technologies to allow them to move faster and innovate in ways that we couldn't do before. I think largely it is those companies that have focused on cloud-based technologies, but not exclusively. But even as I look at companies like BlackSky, who, full disclosure, AWS works with, when I look at how they're leveraging capabilities like artificial intelligence and machine learning to make the kind of decisions based on mountains and mountains of data, to make decisions in seconds rather than hours, that is truly game-changing capability, not only for our military, but national security apparatus and the commercial industry across the board. So that's sort of the way I think about new space. When I think about companies like Lunar Outpost, which is utilizing digital engineering, digital modeling, and simulation capabilities to build their entire lunar rover on the cloud before they ever bend a single piece of metal, moving them years to the left in terms of their ability to meet a NASA contract to launch in January of 23 and put a rover on the South Pole for the first time ever. Those are things we just couldn't do before. When I think about companies like Leo Labs, who are leading the way in many ways in space traffic management and collision avoidance, and by the way, sustainability is a critical capability to America and the world today. And so not only is sustainability important to Amazon, but in terms of thinking about sustainability in space, it's ensuring that we keep the domain debris free so that we can continue to operate. And so when you think about a company like Leo Labs, who's embracing cloud-based technologies to go from 8 hours to make predictions about potential collisions to 10 seconds, and that's a true story as they moved onto the cloud and cloud-based capability from hours to seconds, that allows you to do real-time space traffic management in space like we've done in air for years and years that we could never do in space before. And so when I think about those new missions, new capabilities and emerging technologies, allowing us to do things we could not do before, that's really where I think about new space and the horizons it opens for us.
Well, J.R., I'd like to get your take on that a little bit. Maybe you can embellish on that a bit.
Sure can, David. Sure. Some BlackSky is our mission really is a new way to see the world. We've seen in the past, in the, I'll say old space, I'm using air quotes here, really a static environment from satellite imagery, how we did satellite imagery using larger vehicles, larger on-orbit vehicles in the 2000s, to mobile and GPS in the 2010s approximately. We had the Desert Storm War with made GPS a national utility. We're seeing it now going from static into dynamic. Dynamic monitoring from space, which is what BlackSky does in real-time geospatial intelligence. Everything from purely automating that intelligence on demand to the user. And then moving into the 2025s and beyond, real-time global monitoring. That unblinking eye that we always talk about is really becoming more of a way of life now, based on companies like BlackSky and others. We're very, very fortunate that we have that integration with Amazon and working with General Crosier's team. We're a great partnership there, works really, really well. But we're delivering that real-time geospatial intelligence every single day to our users, both military, international governments, and commercial users as well. And that static to dynamic is really the key. It's the internet moment we talk about in new space. Of static was what we were used to. Dynamic is what really an end user can ask for, getting on our platform, Spectra AI, ordering imagery, and having it delivered in actually less than 90 minutes on average. In some cases, 20 to 30 minutes, depending on what folks are looking for and where the constellation is and how it's being programmed. All of this, of course, as General Crosier said, is using AI machine learning. It literally is person out of the loop. The only person that's in the loop is the person ordering it. As easy to order as an Uber, DoorDash, Amazon, you pick one. That's how simple we've tried to make the user interface and user experience. And I think that's the new space area that we're seeing today. And I'd add one more comment on top of that. Space and deterrence as something that many military folks talk about. You've talked about nuclear deterrence and deterrence against war. Space deterrence has changed the future, I think, of warfare and what we see today, to include what we saw in Ukraine. And BlackSky was very supportive of the Ukrainian folks there, taking care where we could and helping others. And that space deterrence, that unblinking eye, I think changed the flavor and the intent of the enemy and what they were doing in Ukraine. And I think from a BlackSky perspective, we're very supportive of Ukraine, and we still are today, and we'll continue to do that. You'll see that in our press reports. And I think, General Crosier would agree, from our military backgrounds, it has changed the face of what we see as real-time intelligence, situational awareness, and preparation for either protecting or taking care of issues that are in the field. So, David, thank you for bringing that tack on new space to us.
Well, I appreciate it. And you mentioned internet moments, and we've corresponded about that a little bit. But it sounds like there've been about 4 or 5 that were just touched on here. 4 or 5. I mean, everything from landing a rover on the pole of Mars to this static to dynamic change, et cetera. There have been a half a dozen of these recently, in my lifetime and more recently, where the fundamental change, disruptive change, is happening over and over and over again. So when we look to the future, though, I'm wondering what the next sort of internet moment is. What's going to be the next development? I mean, for me, one of them is the ability to have some permanent space station in the sky, a Jiffy Lube or whatever, that can grab and fix all of these satellites, grab the debris, put it together, maybe combine some of them together so there aren't as many discrete objects floating around in space. But managing, you mentioned sustainability, General.
Yeah.
The next internet moment will be figuring out a way to solve this sustainability problem, track all of these objects, track all this debris, and as you said, J.R., in seconds, be able to tell whether or not we're going to have a collision or not, and to manage it, right? So air traffic control is an internet moment, right? But then also management. So I mean, an interesting job to be the guy up in space whose job it is to be the mechanic and put new batteries in, et cetera. What would you guys say are the next couple of internet moments that we're looking forward to?
So David, let me jump in on that, because we at Amazon are so excited about the future of space, the way you just articulated. And so let's think about some of the missions that are coming down the pike. So we already know that our friends, Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin, are building Orbital Reef, which is going to be a commercial low Earth orbit space hub as a platform for commerce, a platform for research and development, a platform for future growth and development, including potentially even space tourism. And so when you think about opening up opportunities like on-orbit manufacturing. And the medical community tells us there's things they can manufacture in space, medicines and R&D that can only be done in microgravity. So there's some game-changing capabilities there. When we think about using a space station as a hub to go out and do satellite servicing and repair, something we've never been able to do, our whole careers, J.R. would launch a satellite into orbit, and what got on orbit is what you had until you ran out of gas, right? That's changing. We're thinking about this idea of asteroid mining and putting people on the surface of the moon to build out a lunar base camp as a platform to move out and explore into Mars and the rest of the universe. When you think about all those exciting missions, there's one thing that they all require, and that's advanced communications and advanced computing. The same way we have seen advanced communications and advanced computing be key to driving global commerce here on the Earth, we know that every one of those missions are going to need the same thing. And so we're in the process right now of moving the edge, moving the cloud into space, moving the cloud into orbit. We did an interesting and exciting demo with Axiom Space a few months ago, where we took a cloud computing edge device called a snow cone. We went through 7 months of NASA space flight certification, and we launched it on the AX-1 mission to the International Space Station and used that edge computing device to catalog experiments that astronauts were running on the International Space Station, a first in Amazon. We're working with Blue Origin to cloud enable the orbital reef platform. So we have all the key capabilities from AI, ML, advanced data analytics that we know are key to business, national security, prosperity here on Earth, to provide those capabilities into space. And even companies like Lunar Outpost, who we mentioned, that is going to have a rover on the south pole of the moon doing lunar exploration on the south pole for the first time, who want cloud-based capabilities resident within the lunar rover. So that's an area that we're really excited about. And we think whether it's pushing on and exploring within our universe, or it's using those advanced space technologies, as I said, for medical research to make life better here on Earth, those are all the things that we think are going to be coming down the pike in this new internet moment, if you will, as we fully leverage space and what it means both into the universe and here on planet Earth.
Well, it's kind of hard to get my mind wrapped around all of those developments coming in, and it sounds like they're going to come in with the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Or less. I mean, many of these are in development now and will be on orbit in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, our kids will grow up going, well, of course we have a big station up there and you can go there and you can.
That's right.
It'd be just like having our kids think about a cell phone, and I think about my old rotary wire. Right. So this is wonderful. I have to say you guys are at the cutting edge. Now, when you talk about putting the cloud in space, have either of your companies trademarked the term ORT? The ORT cloud? I'm sorry, a little bad pun thing there. Okay.
No.
One of you, I see that as a product for one of you, the ORT cloud. You guys will dominate that. We'll put the cloud in space. So cybersecurity, of course, we have to protect all of these things. It's ubiquitous. It runs through everything. And I know both of your organizations are heavily focused on that as part of enabling. It's an unfortunate truth that we have to deal with bad actors, and therefore cybersecurity is this headache. Which was interesting to hear Chris Inglis and General Alexander talk about it sort of need to be built into our DNA. It can't be somebody else's job. This is integral to the work that you guys could do. So could you talk a little bit about what each of your respective companies are doing with regard to cybersecurity and enabling the promise of the cloud and space, et cetera, and thwarting bad actors?
J.R., you go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks, General. Yeah, and of course, working with General Crosier and the AWS team is fundamental to what we do. And cybersecurity, I'll just tell you, every company is at war every day in the cyber domain. Now, General Crosier and I know all about space warfighting domain and how we set up Space Force. Cyber was close behind. I'll tell you in discussions on the Hill and discussions within the halls of Congress that cyber is a domain that we must protect, that we must be ready for. And again, we are literally at war every day. We are attempted or engaged on a minute-by-minute basis, many of us in the business of folks trying to get into our systems, degrade our systems, take intellectual property, and you name it. It's a very, very tough environment today. That said, every one of us in the business is firmly and fully focused on making sure that we not only protect, but we prevent any intrusions, not only on our system, but on the products we produce and the systems that we do operate across the spectrum. For us, again, the static to dynamic, the dynamic monitoring that we do today, it's vital to make sure that we have a cyber protected system. And we're doing everything in BlackSky's power today as a small business to make sure that's protected and taken care of with great partners like AWS and General Crosier's team. So it's never ending. And I'll go back to the space deterrence again. How do we stop folks again from doing some of those cyber intrusions? It's a really tough image and tough effort to go after, but I think we're all working together through government agencies and others to make sure that we're very, very well informed as to what's going on and how we can do some mitigation on a daily basis to make sure that we protect the systems, our customers, and the product themselves. General Crozier, I think you would agree based on what you're doing today in your company for sure.
Certainly, and just very quickly, I'll make 2 points. One is we were designing the Space Force. We really designed it to limit the number of fields or expertises we brought in. We wanted to leverage the Air Force for all the foundational capabilities like civil engineering and infrastructure management. We didn't need to recreate that, and only bring in those career fields that were core and fundamental to operating in space. And the first 2 career fields we brought in were space operations and cyberspace operations, because we saw that as 2 sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other just by the very nature of space. So I'm very proud that we thought about that as a united set of capabilities. The second piece I'll mention very quickly, I'm really glad to see where we've come. I spent a good part of my early career trying to help convince Congress, civil companies, commercial companies of the threat to space. And frankly, the DoD and the national security apparatus saw it. Others didn't want to spend money on cybersecurity until they were convinced of the threat. We're well past that, right? Everybody understands the threat. And so now I have commercial or civil space organizations coming to us saying, hey, we know Amazon has built their entire cloud-based capabilities on a secure platform. How do we leverage that? And that's a game changer. So I'm really proud. We've built some 300 security governance protection capabilities into our platform that we offer our customers in terms of securing their platforms against cyber ransom, cyber attacks, et cetera. And so, as you said, it's in the DNA. You have to build the cybersecurity in as thing one in the basic platform. Then we offer additional security tools, protocols, capabilities to our customers on top of that. And when we bring those together, platform security and customer security, enabling them to build secure applications in the cloud, we think that gives us our best chance of withstanding the cyber threats.
Well, I appreciate what you guys do in that, because it's absolutely critical. That's not the fun stuff. It's something we have to do. And I think we've all, like you said, embraced it. So I'd like to make it this a little bit more fun, have a conversation about, of all the cool things, of all the great things that you see coming down the road, and like I said, in the near future, 5, 10 years. If you had to pick, and I know there are a lot of them, but if you had each of you, and I got about a minute for each of you, if you could pick one that you are the most excited about seeing some development at Amazon, at AWS, at BlackSky, et cetera, that you think is going to either have the biggest impact or will be the most interesting thing that we're about to see here coming up.
Well, so I'll say very quickly, I've already alluded, I think cloud in space is going to be the game changer. All these new capabilities, all these new missions that are emerging in space, they're going to require advanced cloud capabilities, just like life here on Earth does. And so that's the big exciting one for me, but I'll turn it over to my friend J.R.
Thank you, General. And I would say, David, for us, and from what I see sitting in the chair here, it's predictive and anticipatory analytics. It's the AI machine learning levels that we're getting today to realize and figure out how quickly you can be the first to know on analytics, not just imagery. It's what you're going to see, what you can predict. It will change, again, the nature of commercial industry. I think it's going to change the nature of what we see today as warfare, both in the cyber realm and space domain and warfighting domain as well. And it's going to help overall have a more prosperous world by doing that, because you're going to look over the next hill and then over the next hill as well. You'll be able to predict and anticipate what you see coming through. That'll also involve real-time algorithms that we're using for AI machine learning that AWS uses as well, multi-INT or multi-int analysis, the ints that we use in the military today, and bringing all those analytics together. And then, of course, the rapid delivery to that end user, whether it's on their cell cell phone, handheld, laptop, whatever deployed field unit is out there that needs that. We want to make sure that all that direct tasking and downlink comes in with that anticipatory analytics that we're working on. If we do the integrated space, the integrated ground, and the analytics platform together, probably the most powerful thing we can have is that real-time dynamic anticipatory analytics. That's my opinion. So thank you, David.
Yeah, I mean, when World War II, we planned military and national security campaigns on the timeline of months to weeks. We're living in an environment where those campaigns are going to be executed in minutes and seconds. And that's the game-changing capability that these advanced technologies allow us, staying ahead of potential adversaries in the OODA loop.
That's correct.
Well, thank you both, gentlemen, for those perspectives, et cetera, and looking forward to seeing these things play out. I think I'll live long enough to see these things that you're talking about. Like you said, they're coming right around down the pike. Thank you again. And I want to say, as a former Amazon employee, I worked on the Career Choice Program. So I want to say thank you for everything both of your organizations do. And if I was a young man, I would want to work for either one of your organizations. So
Excellent.
love to
Excellent.
work under your leadership, both of you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, General. Great to see you again, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a great day, gentlemen.